Stan Saylor this morning, who is a state representative, has been there for a long time from the 94th Legislative District in the State House. He is now the head of the powerful House Appropriations Committee, and he joins us here on WSBA. Stan, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome. Great morning, sunny day.
Oh, it's a beautiful day, and always a good day when I get a chance to talk to you a little bit. We've had more legislators here today than probably show up at a regular session, even though right now during COVID-19 I know it's a little more different. But, let's talk a little bit about one of the things that many Pennsylvanians are starting to ask. Okay, it's an emergency, but how much money do you spend when you don't have the money to spend? You're a guy that has to worry about that kind of stuff with the appropriations, as the appropriations chair. Talk a little bit about that as a concern right now, and how far do we go into this in trying to make people whole, and especially during a time where we're seeing small business carnage like we haven't seen before in our lifetimes.
Well, that's it, Gary. When I was crafting the budget, the governor makes his presentation in February of a budget, but that was before COVID-19. So when I was responsible with crafting the budget that we passed last week and sent to the governor's desk and he signed, I was like, we don't have the money to fully fund our budget at this point in time. We don't even know how much money we have because the money that normally comes in April and May was delayed from taxes, was delayed till July and August.
Right.
So we did a guesstimation of how much money we lost due to COVID-19 and small businesses being shut down. And we came up with about $30 billion, which is about $4 billion short of what we were supposed to come up with this year. And we looked and projected based upon our studies of the economy of where we're going to be next year. So for next year's budget, we thought we would do about a 42% budget that would get everybody through till November. By November, we should have a better idea of how the economy is reopening, what economic impact are having on the small businesses and their taxes and their employee taxes that they're going to be paying. And so what we did is we fully funded education. We wanted to send a clear message to everybody. Education is critical in our state, and we funded that, the scholarships to students, colleges, all those kind of things. We fully funded, along with our pension payments and our debt payments. Everybody else will receive only 42% of their budget, and then we can decide in December what exactly we're going to do with the rest of the money that may be left. And we'll also know whether the federal government's coming back with additional dollars for the state.
Obviously, the billion-dollar question, maybe more out there, is how many different businesses are going to be the carnage along the way, and how much lost revenue are you going to have? I mean, I guess that's the question you're most looking at right now in terms of how to be able to fund down the way. And it's a scary proposition when you think of how much money we will not have coming in the coffers this time next year that we had coming in this time last year.
Right. I mean, you think about it, it's not just the business taxes that we're going to lose, but all those employees. I mean, the projections are that 25% of restaurants will not reopen. And that means all of those employees are going to stay unemployed. And who knows? I mean, I don't know what it means for other small businesses out there. How many of them will not reopen their doors as well? So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for us as a legislature and a governor to set our priorities. This is going to be truly a time with the pandemic and everything else that's going on to set our priorities. What is the responsibility of state government to fund and taxpayers to fund versus others?
Let me ask you this question, Stan. This is a tough one. Have we needlessly trashed our economy? Have we, I obviously, we've said this probably about 8 million times, so let me make it 8,000,001. We've said that, all of us were willing to give government a wide berth coming out of the gate here on COVID because we didn't know a lot about it. And obviously, we were willing to say, okay, let's take a look at this and see what we've learned. But as we've learned more and more, we've also found out that it's a situation where we need to be able to adapt to it as an endemic. In other words, have to live with it. And many of us have felt that we have not done a terribly expedient job on that, and that just looking at the safety of people was not enough, that looking at the safety of people and their property and their business and all the various holes that you and I have talked about before in terms of, keeping wholesalers open but closing down the retailers that they supply, those kinds of things was not done well. And so if you look at all that, a lot of people now are sitting and starting to take account of some of this and saying, hey, we trashed our economy pretty badly here. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely, Gary. The thing that I find amazing is the people that were making the decisions were doing those, for many cases, too politically. They were worried about either them getting blamed for people dying, and so they just shut things down without any consideration of how many people were going to have psychological problems, drug problems, suicide, things like that, as well as how many businesses were going to close. Look, I like to point out, I know a lot of us don't still maybe know as much as we'd like to know about COVID-19, but I know for a fact last year we lost 34,000 people to the flu.
Yes.
We lost roughly 60,000 in 2012, and that's with a flu shot.
Right.
So, yes, COVID-19 is definitely something very dangerous, and we need to consider, and we need to protect people. I have an 84-year-old mother who has an immune problem. I'm definitely protecting her. But at the same time, she understands the world's got to go on, because if it doesn't, she as a senior citizen and somebody who's getting Social Security is going to be crippled and hurt by the lack of a good economy. And so people have got to start realizing that there are measures that you can do to protect yourself without shutting down this economy. And I think, like I said, these decisions were made far too much as a politician rather than looking at the whole picture. And that's the problem with politicians, is when they only look at a small part of things and don't look at the big picture and don't look to the future. I tell people all the time, my job is, as a politician, is to look to the future, not just today, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road on what I'm doing and how the consequences are.
Stan, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're really busy right now, but always appreciate a few moments with you on what's going on, and we'll be hitting you again very soon.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Take care. Stan Saylor, the Appropriations Chairman of the House in the State House, State Assembly of Pennsylvania, and also the representative from the 94th Legislative District here on WSBA.